In the heart of ancient Greece, a legend was born. This land, rich in history and culture, would soon witness the rise of one of the greatest figures in human history. The year was 356 BCE, in Pella, the capital of Macedon. This city, known for its grandeur and strategic importance, was the birthplace of a future conqueror. King Philip II and Queen Olympias welcomed their son, Alexander III. Their union was not just a marriage, but a powerful alliance that would shape the destiny of their child. Little did they know this child would grow up to conquer vast empires and etch his name in history as Alexander the Great. His early years were marked by an insatiable curiosity and a fierce determination. From his very birth, Alexander was destined for greatness. The omens and prophecies surrounding his birth foretold a future filled with extraordinary achievements. His father, Philip II, was a formidable king who had strengthened and united Macedon. Under his rule, the kingdom saw unprecedented military and political advancements. His mother, Olympias, was believed to be descended from the mythical Achilles. She instilled in Alexander a sense of divine purpose and a connection to the heroic past. Alexander's early years were spent in the royal court, where he was exposed to politics, diplomacy, and war. Surrounded by scholars, warriors, and statesmen, he absorbed knowledge and skills that would later serve him in his conquests. Among his many tutors was the great philosopher Aristotle, who taught him philosophy, science, and the arts. This education broadened his horizons and prepared him for the challenges ahead. Recognizing his son's potential, Philip II sought out Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers, to tutor young Alexander. Philip knew that Aristotle's vast knowledge and wisdom would be invaluable in shaping his son's future. He believed that, under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander would not only learn about the world, but also develop the critical thinking skills necessary to become a great leader. Aristotle's arrival at the Macedonian court marked a turning point in Alexander's life. The young prince was eager to learn and absorb all the knowledge that Aristotle had to offer. This meeting was the beginning of a profound teacher-student relationship that would last for years and leave a lasting impact on Alexander's character and ambitions. For 3 years, from the age of 13, Alexander received a privileged education from Aristotle. These were formative years where Alexander was exposed to a wide array of subjects and ideas. Aristotle's teaching methods were rigorous and comprehensive, ensuring that Alexander was well-versed in various disciplines. The curriculum was broad, encompassing philosophy, logic, rhetoric, poetry, and ethics. Aristotle believed in a holistic approach to education, one that would prepare Alexander not just for leadership but for life. He taught Alexander to think critically, to question assumptions, and to seek knowledge relentlessly. Aristotle instilled in his pupil a love for learning and a deep appreciation for Greek culture. He introduced Alexander to the rich traditions and history of Greece, fostering a sense of pride and identity. This cultural education was as important as the intellectual one, shaping Alexander's worldview and his approach to leadership. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander developed a keen interest in philosophy, particularly the works of Homer. The epic tales of heroes and gods resonated deeply with the young prince, inspiring him to emulate their virtues and achievements. These stories fueled his imagination and ambition, setting the stage for his future conquests. The epic tales of heroes and gods resonated deeply with the young prince. He saw in these stories a reflection of his own aspirations and dreams. The lessons from these epics were not just about bravery and heroism, but also about wisdom, justice and leadership. Aristotle's teachings ignited within Alexander a burning ambition to prove himself on the battlefield. He was determined to live up to the ideals of the heroes he admired. This ambition, combined with the knowledge and wisdom imparted by Aristotle, set Alexander on a path to greatness, ultimately leading him to become one of history's most legendary conquerors. At 16, Alexander's formal education under Aristotle ended. Philip II appointed him regent of Macedon while he was away on campaigns. Alexander rose to the challenge, proving himself a capable and decisive leader. During his time as regent, Alexander faced his first real test of leadership when a Thracian tribe, the Maedi, revolted. Alexander swiftly crushed the rebellion, demonstrating his military prowess. In 336 BCE, Philip II was assassinated, and Alexander moved to secure his position as king. Grief-stricken but resolute, he quickly put down any potential rivals. The young prince was now the king of Macedon, ready to forge his own destiny. With the Macedonian throne secure, Alexander the Great, a young and ambitious king, was ready to embark on a journey that would change the course of history. His eyes were set on the vast and wealthy Persian Empire, a realm that had long been a dominant force in the ancient world. Alexander set his sights on the Persian Empire, a colossal territory that stretched from the Aegean Sea to the Indus River. This was no small feat. Conquering such a vast empire required not only military might but also strategic genius. In 334 BCE, at the head of a well-trained army, Alexander began his campaign. His forces were composed of seasoned soldiers who had been rigorously trained for this moment. The Macedonian army was known for its discipline and effectiveness in battle. Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor, marking the beginning of his legendary conquest. This crossing was not just a geographical move, but a symbolic act of defiance against the Persian Empire. Alexander's army was a formidable force, consisting of seasoned soldiers who were well versed in the art of war. These men had fought numerous battles and were prepared for the challenges ahead. Supported by cavalry units which provided mobility and speed, the Macedonian army was a versatile and deadly force. The cavalry played a crucial role in Alexander's military tactics. Archers and siege engines added to the army's capabilities, allowing them to engage enemies from a distance and breach fortified positions. These elements made Alexander's forces adaptable to various combat scenarios. But Alexander's greatest strength lay in his strategic brilliance and inspirational leadership. He was not just a warrior, but a visionary who could inspire his men to achieve the impossible. His first major encounter with the Persians came at the Granicus River. This battle was crucial as it set the tone for the rest of the campaign. The Persians were confident, but they underestimated Alexander's resolve. Alexander personally led a cavalry charge across the river, surprising the Persians with his audacity and tactical acumen. His bold move caught the enemy off guard and disrupted their formations. The Macedonian troops, inspired by their king's courage, secured a decisive victory. This triumph boosted their morale and solidified Alexander's reputation as a brilliant military leader. The Battle of Granicus River announced Alexander's arrival as a military commander of extraordinary talent. It was the first of many victories that would etch his name into the annals of history, marking the beginning of an empire that would stretch across 3 continents. The news of Alexander's victory at Granicus River spread throughout Asia Minor. The Persian king Darius III assembled a massive army to confront the Macedonian threat. The two armies met in November 333 BCE near Issus. The Battle of Issus was a clash of titans, pitting the might of the Persian Empire against Alexander's ambition. Darius III deployed his forces on a narrow plain, hoping to trap the Macedonians. Alexander ordered his companion cavalry to charge directly at Darius. The Macedonian charge led by Alexander created chaos and confusion. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving his army leaderless and demoralized. With the Persian army vanquished, Alexander continued his eastward march. He captured the Phoenician cities of Tyre and Gaza, further consolidating his control. In 331 BCE he entered Egypt, where he was hailed as a liberator and crowned pharaoh. Alexander founded numerous cities throughout his empire, many named Alexandria. These cities became centers of learning, commerce, and cultural exchange. Alexander encouraged his soldiers to marry local women, promoting intermarriage. He himself married Roxana, a Bactrian princess, symbolizing his vision of unity. Alexander's efforts laid the foundation for the Hellenistic Age, a period of cultural diffusion. After consolidating his power in Egypt, Alexander pursued Darius III into the heart of the Persian Empire. In 331 BCE, the two armies clashed for the final time at Gaugamela. The Battle of Gaugamela was another stunning victory for Alexander. Darius III fled eastward, only to be murdered by his own men. With Darius's death, the Persian Empire collapsed, and Alexander stood triumphant. Alexander continued his eastward march into India, fighting a series of battles. His soldiers, exhausted and daunted, pleaded with him to turn back. In 323 BCE, Alexander fell ill in Babylon and died at the age of 32. Alexander's death sent shockwaves throughout his vast empire. He left no clear heir, and his generals quickly turned on each other. The once unified empire fragmented into several Hellenistic kingdoms. These kingdoms inherited Alexander's legacy of cultural exchange and intellectual curiosity. The Hellenistic Age saw a remarkable fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures. Greek became the language of administration and scholarship. Alexandria became the intellectual and cultural capital of the Hellenistic world. The Hellenistic Age was a time of great intellectual ferment, with scholars building on Greek foundations. Alexander the Great's life and legacy have captivated historians for centuries. He was a brilliant military strategist, a ruthless conqueror, and a visionary leader. His conquests reshaped the political and cultural landscape of the ancient world. His empire may have been short-lived, but his impact on history was profound. Alexander's legacy continues to be debated and reinterpreted today. Some view him as a visionary leader, others as a ruthless conqueror. Regardless, his achievements and the enduring fascination he holds are undeniable. Alexander's story is a reminder of the power of ambition and the enduring legacy of human endeavor. Agap 3s. Throughout history, it's often the small beginnings that lead to the biggest events. Alexander the Great's early battles are a perfect example. Before he became the famous conqueror we know today, young Alexander had to show what he was made of on the battlefield. His clever strategies and never-give-up attitude were clear right from the start. At Gap 3s, one of his first big wins was at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE. At only 18 years old, Alexander led the left side of his father's army. He showed everyone how smart he was by leading a brave cavalry charge that broke through the Theban sacred band, winning a major victory for Macedon. Gap 3S. Another early win happened at the Battle of the Granicus River in 334 BCE. This was Alexander's first big fight against the Persian Empire. Even though he was outnumbered, he showed how daring and skilled he was by leading a direct attack across the river, surprising the Persians and winning a really important victory. Gap 3S. These early battles weren't just about winning land, they were about making Alexander famous as a commander who couldn't be beaten. Each win made him more legendary, setting him up for the amazing conquests that would come later. At Gap 3S, Alexander's early battles show us how brilliant and brave he was as a leader. They were the base for his later successes and made sure he would be remembered as one of the best military leaders ever. Gap 3S. The story of Alexander's early battles isn't just a war story, it's a story about ambition, strategy, and always trying to be the best. It reminds us that even the biggest empires start with one important win. Gap 3S. One of the most amazing stories in Alexander the Great's life as a general was the siege of Tyre in 332 BCE. This wasn't just another fight. It showed how clever and determined Alexander was. Gap 3S. Tyre was a strong island city with big walls and the sea all around, making it super hard to conquer. But Alexander never gave up easily. He knew Tyre was important and that he needed to take it to beat the Persian Empire. Gap 3S. The siege went on for 7 long months. Alexander's army had a tough time fighting against the Tyrians and trying to attack an island fortress. But Alexander was a clever man. He came up with a brave plan, built a massive bridge, a causeway made of earth and stone all the way from the land to the island. This amazing bit of engineering let his army finally get through the city's defences. Gap 3S. The Tyrians tried to stop Alexander by attacking from the sea and setting the causeway on fire, but Alexander didn't give up. He ordered the building of tall siege towers and used his ships to stop anyone getting in or out of the city. Gap 3S. Finally, after months of trying, Alexander's army broke through Tyre's walls. The city was defeated, and everyone learned something important. No fortress was too strong, and no enemy was too powerful if they faced Alexander's brilliant strategies. Gap 3S. The siege of Tyre shows us how clever and strong-willed Alexander was. It wasn't just winning a battle, it showed he could make the impossible happen. This siege made him known as a brilliant strategist and a leader who could overcome anything. Gap 3S. Alexander's victory at Tyre was more than just winning a fight. It was a really important moment that showed his genius and prepared him for more victories in the future. It reminds us that being truly great often means thinking differently and never giving up, no matter what. Gap 2S. The Battle of Gaugamela, which happened way back in 331 BCE, was a super important moment for Alexander the Great. It was a big step in his plan to take over the Persian Empire. This massive fight took place on the flat lands of Gaugamela, which is near modern-day Iraq. It was a clash between two of the biggest and strongest armies in the ancient world. Gap 3S. On one side there was Alexander and his Macedonian army. They were really well trained and super loyal to Alexander. On the other side was Darius III, the king of Persia. He had a huge army, way bigger than Alexander's. Gap 3S. But Alexander wasn't scared of big numbers. He had a clever plan. He was a careful planner, and his soldiers totally believed in him. Those were his best weapons. Gap 3S. When the sun came up on the day of the battle, everyone was really tense. Alexander's army, even though it was smaller, was in a good position, ready to follow his brilliant plan. Alexander himself led the charge, riding his favourite horse, Bucephalus. He was really brave, and that inspired his soldiers. Gap 3. Yes, the battle started with a huge clash of swords, spears, and shields. The Macedonian phalanx, which was a tight group of soldiers with long spears, moved forward steadily, pushing through the Persian lines. Alexander's cavalry, who were really fast and dangerous, attacked the enemy from the side, causing confusion among the Persians. Gap 3 SS. Even though Darius had more soldiers, Alexander's clever tactics were too much for him. Darius tried to change things by sending in his best war chariots to attack the Macedonians. But Alexander was already prepared for that. His soldiers made gaps in their lines, letting the chariots pass through without doing any harm, then closed ranks again to trap and destroy them. Gap 3S. As the battle went on, Alexander saw a weak spot in the middle of the Persian army. He led a cavalry charge right into the heart of the enemy. Darius, watching his army fall apart, ran away from the battlefield, leaving his soldiers in a mess. Gap 3S. Alexander had won the Battle of Gaugamela completely. It wasn't just winning a battle, it showed everyone how brilliant Alexander was at fighting wars. This victory gave him control of the Persian Empire and started a whole new period in history. Gap 3 AES. The Battle of Gaugamela is still one of the most famous battles ever. It shows how clever Alexander was, how brave he was, and how strong the connection was between him and his soldiers. This battle is what made him famous and made sure he would be remembered forever as one of the greatest conquerors ever.